The sun had just risen over the quiet hills, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and gold. Birds sang in the distance, and the gentle wind carried the smell of fresh grass. It was a peaceful morning in Abraham's camp. But that peace was about to be shaken. Abraham, a man now old but still strong in spirit, sat by the entrance of his tent. He had walked with God for many years. He remembered leaving his home when God called him, wandering through strange lands, waiting long years for the son God had promised. And now, that promise had grown into a young boy named Isaac, his joy, his laughter, his future. Isaac was more than a son. He was the miracle that proved God's faithfulness. But that morning, Abraham heard a voice. It was not just any voice, it was the voice of God, strong yet gentle, firm yet filled with purpose. Abraham. Yes, Lord, Abraham replied, bowing his head. Then came the words that pierced his heart. Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. The words felt heavier than stones crushing his chest. His heart raced. His mind could not understand. Sacrifice Isaac? The child you gave me? The son through whom you promised to make me a great nation? Abraham's hands trembled as he pressed them against the ground. The earth beneath him seemed to spin. He closed his eyes, fighting tears. Isaac was not just his child, he was the hope of everything God had promised. To give him up felt impossible. But Abraham also remembered something else. He remembered the countless times God had kept his word. When he and Sarah were old, God gave them Isaac. When enemies surrounded them, God protected them. Every promise God had spoken had come true. Abraham whispered to himself, "The Lord is faithful. He cannot lie." Even as his heart broke, he rose to his feet. He knew what he must do. He would obey. That night, Abraham could not sleep. He sat by the fire, staring into the flames. His mind was heavy, yet his soul clung to God's character. Sarah rested inside the tent, unaware of the command. Abraham looked at the stars above, the same stars God had shown him when he promised, "Your descendants will be as many as these." How can this be if Isaac is gone? He wondered. Yet deep inside, a quiet voice reminded him, God will provide. God has a plan. By the time the first light of dawn touched the camp, Abraham had made his decision. His faith would stand, even when it hurt. He rose, took hold of his staff, and went to prepare for the journey that would test his heart more than anything ever had. He whispered a prayer, his voice breaking, "Lord, I trust you, even with my son." The morning air was cool as Abraham saddled his donkey. His hands moved slowly, almost unwillingly, but his heart stayed fixed on God's command. Isaac's curious eyes followed him. The boy, full of energy and innocence, had no idea of the heavy burden his father carried. "Father, where are we going?" Isaac asked, his voice light and eager. Abraham forced a smile. "We are going to worship the Lord on a mountain, my son." Two servants joined them, and together they began the journey. The donkey carried the wood and supplies. Abraham carried something heavier, the weight of a father's love being tested by God's command. The road was long and dusty. Each step felt like a knife cutting into Abraham's soul. His mind replayed Isaac's laughter, his small hands tugging at his robe, the way Sarah's eyes lit up every time Isaac spoke. How could he ever lay this child on an altar? Yet Abraham's lips whispered again and again, God will provide. God is faithful. On the first night of the journey, the group set up camp under the stars. Isaac, tired from walking, lay beside the fire and quickly fell asleep. His chest rose and fell with the calm rhythm of a child's dreams. Abraham sat awake, staring at him. Tears filled his eyes. He wanted to reach out and hold Isaac, to protect him from what lay ahead. But he also knew he had to trust the one who gave Isaac in the first place. The next day, the hills grew steeper, and the air cooler. Abraham's heart grew heavier. Isaac walked beside him, humming softly, unaware of the storm raging inside his father's soul. The servants chatted quietly, but Abraham barely heard them. His ears were filled with the sound of his own heartbeat and the voice of God that still echoed in his mind. On the third day, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the mountain of Moriah in the distance. His chest tightened. This was the place. This was where faith would be tested. He turned to his servants and said, "Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go over there to worship, and then we will come back to you." The servants nodded, not knowing the weight behind those words. Abraham spoke with conviction, "We will come back to you." Deep in his heart, he believed that somehow, some way, God would not let the promise die. Abraham placed the bundle of wood on Isaac's shoulders. The boy carried it gladly, not realizing it would become part of the altar. Abraham himself carried the fire in a small pot and the knife in his hand. Side by side, father and son walked up the mountain. Each step was harder than the last. Abraham's eyes brimmed with tears, but his face stayed strong. Isaac's voice broke the silence. "Father." "Yes, my son. We have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham's throat tightened. He looked at his son with love and whispered, "God himself will provide the lamb, my son." And they kept walking. The sun beat down on the mountain as Abraham and Isaac climbed higher. The stones beneath their feet crunched with every step, echoing the weight of the journey. Abraham's grip tightened around the knife in his hand. His heart pounded, torn between love for his son and obedience to God. Finally, they reached the place God had shown him. It was a flat clearing on the mountain's peak, surrounded by rocks and open sky. The wind blew strong and steady, as if all of heaven was watching. Abraham looked around, then bent down and began to build an altar. With trembling hands, he stacked stone upon stone, forming a small platform. Isaac, eager to help, laid the wood neatly on top, not knowing what it was meant for. When the altar was ready, silence fell. The only sounds were the whistling wind and Isaac's steady breathing. Abraham's chest ached. His throat was dry. How could he speak the truth to his son? Isaac's curious eyes turned toward him. "Father," he asked again, "where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" Abraham's heart nearly broke in two. He reached out and placed his hand gently on Isaac's shoulder. His voice was soft but firm. "God himself will provide the lamb, my son." Isaac trusted his father. He asked no more questions. But Abraham knew the truth. God had asked for Isaac. And now the moment had come. Slowly, Abraham explained what God had commanded. Isaac's eyes widened with shock. He stepped back, his young face filled with fear and confusion. "Father, me? I am the sacrifice." Abraham's tears fell freely now. He knelt before his son, holding his hands. "My son, you are God's gift to me. I love you more than my own life. But we must trust God, even when we do not understand. He has never failed us before." Isaac's lips trembled, but he saw the faith in his father's eyes. Though he was young, he chose to trust too. Slowly, he nodded. If God wills it, then let his will be done. Abraham's heart shattered at his son's courage. With trembling hands, he gently bound Isaac with ropes. Every knot felt like a dagger piercing his soul. He lifted his son and placed him on the altar, on top of the wood. The boy lay still, his eyes fixed on heaven. Abraham stood over him, his knife heavy in his hand. His arms shook as he raised it high. His voice broke into a desperate cry. "Lord, here is my son, the son you gave me. I obey you." The world seemed to grow silent. The birds stopped singing. Even the wind held its breath. Abraham's hand hovered in the air, ready to strike. His heart screamed with pain, but his faith held firm. And just as he was about to bring the knife down, a voice thundered from heaven. "Abraham! Abraham!" He froze, his hand still raised. "Here I am," he cried. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," the angel of the Lord said. "Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." Abraham collapsed to his knees, sobbing with relief. His son was alive. Abraham fell to the ground, tears streaming down his face. His heart, heavy with sorrow just moments ago, now overflowed with relief and gratitude. Isaac lay on the altar, wide-eyed but unharmed. The knife slipped from Abraham's trembling hand and clattered onto the stones below. The angel's voice still echoed in the air, "Do not lay a hand on the boy." Abraham's chest heaved as he repeated the words to himself, his spirit trembling with awe. God had stopped him. God had seen his obedience. Isaac looked up at his father, his voice weak but steady. "Father, we live." Abraham gathered his son into his arms, holding him tightly. He buried his face in Isaac's hair and whispered, "My son, you are safe. God has spared you. He has shown us his mercy." As Abraham lifted his eyes, something caught his attention. Just a few steps away, a ram was caught in the thicket by its horns. The animal struggled but could not escape. Abraham's heart leapt. God had provided, just as he had told Isaac on the way up. "Look, my son," Abraham said, pointing toward the ram. "The Lord has given us the sacrifice." With joy and reverence, Abraham untied Isaac and helped him down from the altar. Together, they walked to the ram. Abraham took it and placed it on the altar instead of his son. As the smoke rose from the offering, Abraham's voice lifted in worship. "The Lord provides," he declared. "On the mountain of the Lord, it shall be provided." Isaac stood beside him, no longer afraid but filled with wonder. He now understood the depth of his father's faith, and the greatness of the God they served. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven. "Because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you. I will make your descendants as countless as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Through your seed, all nations of the earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice." Abraham bowed low to the ground, overwhelmed by God's words. The test had been painful, but the reward was greater than he could have imagined. He and Isaac had both witnessed the power of faith and the mercy of God. Hand in hand, father and son descended the mountain. Their steps were lighter than when they had climbed it. Abraham's heart was filled with peace. Isaac's young face glowed with awe. Both knew they would never forget this day. As they returned to the servants waiting at the foot of the mountain, Abraham whispered one last prayer. "Lord, I trust you. You are faithful. You are the provider." And from that day, generations remembered the story of Abraham and Isaac, a story of trust, obedience, and the God who provides. Moral lessons. True faith means trusting God even when we don't understand His plan. God's promises never fail. He always provides at the right time. Obedience, even in hard times, leads to blessings beyond imagination. Faith is not just spoken, it is lived through actions. God values our trust more than our sacrifices. If this story touched your heart, remember, God always provides for those who trust Him. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Bible stories that inspire faith and hope.